Simmons has uncovered a history that connects the school to some of America's greatest thinkers.
A press conference was held today
History-making partnership.
announcing a partnership between Simmons College and Jefferson County Public Schools.
Teacher shortage. There is teacher shortage across America.
The research is really clear.
And I can see how Simmons plays such a critical role.
Attention to the need for minority teachers.
Partnership intentionally designed to build more minority teachers.
Simmons is not just a school. We have a rich history. We have
And
a
how
rich
important this partnership is going to be in helping to correct a historic wrong and towards
underrepresented minority.
We have to do better. I believe this program is the beginning of something that could be really special.
To have Simmons as a partner in recruiting minority teachers says two things. One, there is nothing that happens in any community that's any more important to the future of that community than the productivity of its school system. Two, is addressing an enduring issue in the education workforce.
The reason why this partnership is so significant is, first of all, HBCUs specialize in preparing black teachers to teach in the classroom.
HBCUs have always been committed to that. And so when you see the disproportionate statistics, when you really think about the culture of HBCUs, you know, from Cheney to Morehouse to Spelman to Simmons, it's really no surprise that you see so many terminal degrees, you know, PhDs, MDs, JDs, awarded to people who started out at HBCUs.
This is really a return to what we were doing in the first place.
Dramatic impact. So we ought to just kind of take a minute and reflect on the reality of Simmons and the position it occupies in addressing something that we haven't been able to solve yet.
To place everything in the context on what was going on with black people in the late 1800s, you see the end of the Civil War in 1865, the Reconstruction Amendment, 13th Amendment freeing the slaves, 14th Amendment granting citizenship and due process under the law, and finally in 1870 the 15th Amendment, which gave black men the right to vote.
4 months after Lee surrendered to Grant at Appomattox Courthouse, the former slaves in this state came together and formed the General Association.
They're tasked with creating a new black intelligentsia that are going to become the socio-political leaders of black America. That's really the context that Simmons fit into as we were going into the 20th century.
And then in 1879, Simmons College of Kentucky opened its doors.
When Reconstruction ends in 1876-1877 with the Hayes-Tilden Compromise, you see incredible retrenchment in white America.
The pressure was on all black colleges to pattern themselves after Hampton Institute, which was designed to prepare black people for the low-tier jobs and not for the professional jobs. William J. Simmons militated against that and said, Howard is our model. So he set the trajectory for Simmons, and there were two primary goals that he had. Goal number one was to create a black professional class, which they did. His second goal was to create an institution that was black governed.
When you talk about excellence, black people have always understood they had to be better. HBCUs understood and understand that they have to be better. And so they're not just teaching reading, writing, arithmetic. They're teaching a commitment to something greater than the individual.
In fact, it was the only institution in America that had a law school, medical school, liberal arts college. The entire faculty was black. The entire governance was black. So it was the personification of black empowerment.
That excellence is always there. As the Greeks talked about, that arete, always reaching for something higher, not just for themselves, but those around them.
So it started for the purpose of training the black professional class and especially teachers.
Some of the most prestigious names in every facet of education were involved with Simmons College.
Education was important to African Americans at that time for the same reason that education is important to African Americans now. It is absolutely essential that black people understood the system in which they were functioning, no matter how unfair that system was or is.
And then a huge catastrophic economic development takes it down, and we don't know how to hold on to the institution itself.
What happened to Simmons is what happened to many institutions, especially black institutions in America. I mean, this was a time of extreme racism and the access to opportunity. It was bad. The stock market crashed in 1929. The banks foreclosed on them. They lost their property, and the University of Louisville purchased the property to establish a segregated division. And not only did they use their superior financial resources to purchase the campus that slaves had built, but spoke very disparagingly of Simmons University. Kent said that Simmons was a poor excuse for a university. But what Raymond Kent should have said was not that Simmons was a poor excuse for a university, but the United States was a poor excuse for a democracy.
White arrogance in America is a heck of a thing. The lack of awareness of what's gone on with black people in this country. How HBCUs couldn't just be colleges, they had to serve as primary schools as well. But the products coming out of those schools were incredibly stellar. But black people are always a stellar people. All they needed was an equal opportunity.
What is tragic is everything that Simmons once did and everything that Simmons once had, from our curriculum, to our degrees, to our clubs, and even our sororities, that story got dropped off the consciousness of the city. No historical black college and university has ever made the comeback that we made, and no college in American history has ever lost its campus and returned back to the campus that it lost.
Perhaps through this engagement, we will talk about each of us challenging each of us to bring forward 20 young people, 30 young people, whatever you can take on to help illuminate a path to a future that they may have difficulty seeing.
You really touched on what I think is probably one of, if not the most important function of HBCUs. They set up a situation where students understand that black people have a history worth studying, lives worth living, and a future worth constructing.
We have to see every child in every classroom in our community as the potential leader of something great.
When you take institutions like that, people buy those types of professors who love those kids and teach them to function without fear, there is no substitute for that.
These children are developing an orientation to the world that certainly includes their immediate survival, but also must include a sense of what their future holds.
HBCUs, they've been able to take those lost souls and produce something at the end that sometimes their parents don't even recognize. Then the children can go back and rescue their elders. And that's as it should be. Many say, and a child shall lead, right?
Going to Simmons is definitely an experience because of the history that we have here. I've learned so much, and I love my teachers. I guess the best part.
But he pushed me enough and cared for me enough to let me know that I'm more than the choices and decisions that I'm making.
I love my HBCU, Simmons College of Kentucky.
It's literally changing my life.